I'm Cynthia, and I'm the host of the reality series, CPS the Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney or a social worker, but I'm a mother who lost her children to CPS. And after fighting for 2 years, I did get my kids back. I don't believe CPS is about protecting children anymore. I believe it's about the dollar amount that is over our children's heads. So, Shawnee, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, and so on and so forth?
I'm from San Bernardino, California, and I work for IHSS and Bath and Body Works. I'm 24. I have 2 kids, one 3 next month, and my youngest just turned 1 in May. Yeah.
Okay. And were you in the system? Huh? No, you were not.
I didn't know too much more. Yeah, I never was in the system.
That's funny. So I actually am a patient of IHSS. I receive IHSS.
Yeah, I do it for my grandma.
For people who don't know what that is, it's in-home supportive services. It's where if you're disabled, if you're sick, if you have medical issues, you get to choose a person to come in and help you do your cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, whatever. They basically ask you what you're able to do, and then they calculate the time and stuff like that. And then Bath and Body Works. Oh, you're my new best friend. I love that place. Just kidding. So where in San Bernardino? I used to live in Mentone.
Right now I'm in Highland, actually, by the police department.
Okay. Tell me, how did CPS first come into your life?
All right, I've had open referrals before because I had an ex who used to make false accusations against me because I didn't want to be with him. So they first came in when my daughter was about 4 months old, because I left him because I didn't want, he kept hitting me, and that's not what I wanted her to grow up around. So he called saying her dad was touching her, that I was abusing her, that I do drugs, which I've never in my life have done drugs. He's schizophrenic and he's done every drug in the book, and he brags about how he does drugs. So that's when they first came around, and then I had got the referral closed out right before her first birthday. So they came back in December. Yeah, this situation I'm dealing with now, it started in December 18th, because I was at physical therapy because I had got back into a bad car accident the day before Thanksgiving. So I had to do physical therapy 3 times a week. So I was there, and my kid's dad had messaged me, we got to take to the doctor. And I said, why, what happened? He fell and he didn't want to move his arm. So we took him to the urgent care that night, and they said he just had a bruise on his shoulder and he will be fine. So the next morning, which is now December 19th, they had called us back and said, oh, there's a hairline fracture on baby Travion's elbow that we missed. It is very fine. Can you bring it back in so we can wrap it? So we did that. And they told us to follow up with the primary doctor. So December 19th was a Friday, so I called and tried to schedule an appointment with his pediatrician for that Monday, which was the 23rd. So their pediatrician was out, so they said there was another one that my baby could see, and we said, okay, that's fine. We got there early that morning, and the pediatrician me and the dad started talking at the same time, and he said, babe, can I talk first? Because I was the one that was there when the baby fell, and I said, yes, that's fine. So the doctor had made a face, and literally that night at 10, almost 11, a CFS worker from Victorville had came out. And she said, the doctor said that I was told to shut the fuck up and the father was the only one to be talking, when that's not at all what was said. My grandma was in the room too, and she told the worker that's not at all what was said. And so she said, just follow up with whatever the pediatrician told you to do, and I'll close out the case. So literally the day after Christmas, a detective at 6 o'clock in the morning is knocking on the door. And she said she's just following up with the CFS report, making sure the baby's fine. We told her the same thing. I showed her that proof that I wasn't home. And we showed her where the kids were sleeping, because we didn't know that we didn't have to let nobody in the house at the time. So we showed her where they were sleeping, let her know why the baby was sleeping in our daughter's bed, because his crib had broke. And she said, okay, that's fine. Just follow up with the CFS worker in the morning. So literally an hour later, she's knocking on the door again, telling us we didn't have to wait for our appointment at Loma Linda to just go in, go through the emergency room and tell them that we're going up to the orthopedics. So we went through the emergency room. They didn't tell us they were doing an abuse assessment on my baby. We were there from 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, I was there from 9 o'clock that morning to 6 o'clock in the afternoon on the December 27th. The detectives asked us both if we're willing to do polygraphs, and I said we both agreed. So they came and got their father, and they ended up arresting him, but he was only in jail for 1 to 2 days. And what else did they do? Wait, back up a little bit. They had did a full body x-ray on my son and said he had rib fractures. But when we took them to the urgent care, there was only the elbow fracture. So I'm like, where did these fractures come from? If we have the full body x-rays, I had the papers from the urgent care, everything with me. And they're trying to say it went from his elbow and 2 ribs to his elbow and 4 ribs to him having fractures from the time he was born. And I said, no, he didn't. And so when the detectives had called, my brother had called me right before the detective called me. This was 2 o'clock on December 27th. And he's like, the police are here. What the hell you mean they're taking my baby? And he said, there's a black lady. She's here. She has her. They're putting her in the car. They're putting her in a van. They have Royal. And I'm like, Hezekiah, calm down. What do you mean? He said, there's CFS and police here. They're taking, I was like, whoever's there on the phone. And she said, there's nothing we can do. I said, but I wasn't home. I don't know. I didn't see what happened to my baby. So how do you guys expect me to explain what happened if I wasn't home when I'm showing you guys proof that I wasn't home? She said, well, it's out of my hands. You have court January 2nd. So January 2nd came and they didn't really tell us anything at court. And it's just every court date, they just asking about my family history. Like what all am I mixed with? What mental health issues do we have? They're trying to say my kid's father is schizophrenic and he's not. As I was reading through all the papers, I had called him. I said, you're schizophrenic? He said, no. And I said, well, that's not what CFS has written down in these papers. He's like, what the hell? But he was in foster care and stuff growing up. So he's like, they already know me. They're going to give us a hard time because of me. Like, they made me separate from him. So he's homeless. I don't know where he's at. I have to file a restraining order against him. And the worker's still recommending no reunification for me, even when I'm showing her proof that I wasn't there. And my brothers gave the detectives the same story that their dad gave them, because he was in the room when our baby fell. He gave the same story without even hearing it. And because he's 15, he can't even be used as a witness. But I'm like, he's old enough to talk to the detective. Why can't he talk in court?
Going back to the doctor appointment, whatever happened with that? So your spouse or the father, he says, let me talk because I was there.
He said, babe, can I speak? Because I was the one that was there. Yes, that's fine. We didn't say aggressive. He didn't say, let me talk. Or he didn't say, shut the fuck up like the doctor.
That's crazy. What did they say when that conversation happened? Like, that's crazy that she would even like lie about that. That's a big deal, you know?
He just brushed it off, because he's like, when he was here, when the worker got here, we were both outside. I was holding my daughter. He was holding our son. And we were just talking about it, because when she said that, we both looked at each other like, that's not what was said. And I told the worker what was said. And so every time I try to tell any of the workers what really happened, I'm defending their dad.
It's amazing how they do that, huh?
Yeah.
They they manipulate how things are done, and then they try to separate the parents.
Yeah.
So when was the day that they actually took the kids?
December 20, 2019.
Okay, just for future, because it's in our contract, you can't say anybody's names.
Okay.
Did you read the contract?
Yeah, as best as I could because it was small and I wear glasses.
Okay. Yeah. Super important. Don't mention their names. We'll have to edit them out.
Okay.
So, when they came to the door, did they have a warrant?
I'm not sure. I was still at the hospital with my son. My grandma was the one, and my little brother were the ones here when they came and picked up my daughter.
Okay.
They got to the hospital to talk to me. They didn't show me anything.
But they took your baby from the hospital?
My baby, he was in the hospital for a week because they were running all kinds of tests on him. They were checking his eyes to make sure nothing had bursted in his eyes. They were taking his blood, doing more x-rays. And they even had my daughter, because I had my aunt pick up my daughter around 11 that night. Because I was like, oh yeah, we're not going home no time soon. So I called. I said, hey, can you come pick up the baby, because we got to stay here with the other baby. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. And at 2:00 in the morning, they had me call my aunt to have the baby brought back to the hospital. They did all the same tests on her. There was not one scratch, no infection, nothing on her. And I was like, because this is the first time either one of my kids have gotten hurt. And then every time they talk to me, they talk about how smart my daughter is. My daughter is 2 and has a kindergarten level education, they said. And I was like, because I was always trying to teach her something. She knows her name. She can count to 30. She knows the alphabet. And they said that's unusual for a child her age. And I was like, what?
That's good.
Exactly. She knows all her animals, what sounds they make. I was like, okay. And we were talking to the new worker with my sister, and she's like, well, she was already really smart when she got here, so it's not really too much more at her age that we can teach her. She knows her full name. She knows her mom's name, her dad's name, and she can write her name already.
So, when they showed up at the hospital, did they have your daughter with them?
Mm-mm.
No.
Oh, they had separated me from where I was sitting with my son by the bed to the nurse's break room. And I didn't know what was going on until my brother called me. I just knew that the nurses were taking me from my son. They literally took my son out of my arms. And my son was at the time.
That's humiliating.
It was. I was in the hospital crying.
After they take your kids, do they tell you to go home?
No, the detectives had called me at that point and had me meet them at the police station so I could answer some more questions. So I didn't get home till real late that day.
And what happened?
I had waited. I tried calling the worker who signed the thing for my children to be removed, to see what all I can do, to see if I can get into my classes right away, because I knew I would have to take classes. And she wouldn't answer until I did this group called the Black Infant Health Group. And my advocate there, she used to be a CFS worker, so she was able to contact people in the CFS office and telling them that the new worker needs to contact me so I can know where my kids are or where they're going, because I'm like, I don't know who has my daughter. I don't know who's changing her diapers. I don't know if she's being touched or she's being abused. And the foster mom actually reached out to me on her own, because she's like, I can't imagine how you feel. My son is your daughter's age. And she said she felt that kids should be at home. She said, you can tell these kids aren't abused. Their eyes light up and they get excited when they see you guys. And I said, exactly. I was like, we're not those kind of people. I don't see how anybody can abuse their kids. And she said she kept saying stuff to the workers, and she actually had to file complaints against the worker because she kept demanding to know where she lived, not where she lived, where she works, how much she makes at work. She's like, if you don't tell me this, I can have the kids snatched from you real quick. So she had to file a complaint herself.
So they took the kids and did they give you an option to put them with family or somebody else?
Yeah, my sister has them right now.
Okay, but at first they put them in a foster house?
Yeah. And they didn't ask me about any family until the judge asked at court. The workers, until I had contacted the people I know from the Black and Fit Health office, nobody was trying to give me any information because she told them that if they don't call me and let me know what's going on with my kids, she's going to the state. I still have my son's medical, nothing. And I keep after the CFT meeting back in towards the end of January, and they were talking about having my son adopted. Because I have court papers that says to have my son adopted, but my daughter returned home. And yet they still don't want to give me even my daughter. And I'm like, okay, at least let me get my daughter since it says to return her home. I can keep fighting for my son. But they had said, what did they say? Oh, the worker has said that the forensic report shows the fractures are non-accidental. So my grandpa said, can I see that report? Can I read where it says that in the report? She said, well, I haven't even seen it yet. My dad said, but you just said that the forensic report says that the fractures to my grandson aren't accidental. And my grandpa said, see, we just caught you in a lie right here.
And then what? Non-accidental, so they're saying it was done on purpose, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because I have a witness to what happened. My little brother, he was in the room. But because he's 15, he's not a credible witness. But he's old enough to speak to a detective, so I don't understand.
Did they speak to him with an adult present?
Workers didn't talk to my brother at all.
The investigator.
Oh, the detective? Yeah.
Detective.
Yeah.
Was there another adult present or no?
Yeah, my dad.
So he couldn't be a witness, though, with an adult present? It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
That's so dumb how they do that. Do you have a case plan right now?
I'm not sure. I did all the classes they wanted me to do, but they didn't give me the classes until it was coming up on 6 months of them being gone.
What's your visitation like?
Thursdays from 1 to 3. Thursdays, 1 to 3 at the CFS building is when I see them.
So they're supervised visits.
Yeah, but my sister is the one that supervises.
But she has to supervise them at their office?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm not sure. And I asked the worker if I could have a birthday party for my daughter since her birthday's on the 4th. And she had said, yeah, outside the building.
The 4th of what, September or October?
October. Her birthday's coming up. And the whole week before not even a week, a month before my son's birthday, I was contacting them. Hey, can I do something for my son? His birthday's on the 30th of next month. Can we do something for him? It's his first birthday. I really don't want to miss it. And my sister just ended up setting up a Zoom call because nobody will contact me back. I left messages multiple times before his birthday.
So you missed his first birthday?
Yeah. I talked to him on his birthday, but I physically missed him. And they were supposed to set up visits for my family because I have a lot of sisters and they have kids who are all real close with my daughter. All of our kids are real close. And so they were supposed to set a family visit so my daughter can still see her cousins because she's used to seeing them every day. And they still haven't done it. And I figured that was because of the virus, because I didn't see them for a good 2-3 months.
Is your sister cooperating on your side?
More theirs. Because my sister, she's just more, she does everything by the book because she can't lie. I can't even, they had came to her house and asked about my visits. And I don't know what she told them, but now I can't even take pictures of my kids unless it's the last 15 minutes of the visit. Like, well, people want to see how they're growing. They have other family that want to see how they're doing. And like, if I text my sister, she won't text me back. She had to cancel my visit for last week because my oldest niece, had hurt her wrist and she had to take her to the doctor. And I said, okay, well, can I do a video call with them? She said, yeah. So I had texted her Thursday. She said, I can't today, really busy. So I texted her Friday. She didn't respond. Texted her again Sunday, still didn't respond. So what more to do? Because I've done everything they wanted. I was always the first one in my classes, the last one to leave. I made sure I took notes on everything. I even told the workers what I've learned from those classes. But to the worker, I'm what word did she use? I forgot what she said. Deceptive. I'm deceptive and I appear to not have benefited from my classes.
Yeah, they told me that too. And I'm manipulative.
And they said, but every attorney I tried to hire, that the judge that I have is pro-parent, and I'm lucky to have that judge.
Who's your judge?
She's in Department 7 in the San Bernardino office. On Gilbert. Her last name's...
I had number 5 in San Bernardino.
I have Alexander. They say everyone says she's the best judge in there to have.
Oh, that's good. I had the worst one.
Cousin, he works for this court, but in Georgia, he said the purpose of the court is to help the parents learn so they can get their kids back. And I said, well, that's not what they're trying to do with me.
No.
And I was like, you're in Georgia. I'm in California. So
that's how it's supposed to be, but that's not how they do it at all.
Yeah. Because my daughter, she asked me, can I come home now? When can I come home? Can me and brother come home? My nephew's like, can you go get them from Auntie's house? And I'm like, I can't right now, nephew.
Is your sister letting the other family members see them or no?
They told her that she's not supposed to.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because they think if anybody who lives in the house with me aren't supposed to go see them. But I'm like, my other sisters don't live here. They all live with their boyfriends. And they're used to seeing my sisters every day. So it's hard because my daughter can't even see her dad because he's not legally on her birth certificate, because me and him, we were going through a rough patch in the relationship at the time. So she has my last name and my ex put his name on the birth certificate. So that's legally her father. They put me on so much medication after because how much blood loss, I could stay awake. All I remember writing on her form was her name and signing my name. And my sister's like, I had woke up and my sisters were there. They were like, he finished filling out some paperwork. And I said, what paperwork? And he wasn't even sitting right there when I looked up. And when I got home, my ex's name was on her birth certificate and there was nothing I can do. So because of that, my daughter can't see her dad. And she asked about him all the time. She's like, can I see my daddy? Where's my daddy? Can you call my daddy? The whole situation is hard because I've never been away from my kids unless I was at school or at an appointment they couldn't go to.
Right.
Like, I've never been away from my kids longer than a night when they would spend the night at my aunt's house.
Have you thought of having somebody else host your kids?
I've asked about it because originally it was going to be my aunt, but because her name got brought up, no, her name didn't get brought up. My little cousin had made all types of fake reports at school trying to say she's being abused. They won't let them go to her house, and that's where they're comfortable too. And I told them, let them come home with my grandma, I will leave. Just let them be where they're comfortable, where they actually know somebody, because they didn't really know, my son didn't know my sister. And my daughter, the last time she seen my sister, she was only a few months old. And then they were supposed to go to their grandma's house, but they never even contacted her. They went straight for my sister. And they were saying it's so close to the trial dates that there's nothing they can do.
What were the classes that
unless it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
Then the kids are safe.
What were the classes that you had to do?
I did anger management, but they said I should have been in the victim victims class. Not that I've done parenting classes, which they just started over, so now I got to do that. Anger and domestic violence.
You're cutting out a bit. So I heard anger, and then
Management,
anger management,
parenting,
parenting.
therapy, and domestic violence.
Okay. And then what do you have to do over?
Therapy, because the therapist put in a request for more sessions.
How many of each classes did you have to do?
Parenting, I did 8 or 9. I forget how much they wanted to do, but it was either 8 or 9. The anger management and domestic violence, I did 12. And the therapy was supposed to be 6.
Do your parents get to see the kids?
Mm-mm. And it's hard on my dad.
I don't understand that, though. That doesn't make sense to me.
My sister, all of my sisters but one had got to see them because they had took me to one of the visits, and I asked the worker if we could sit outside so that way one of my nephews and 2 of my nieces could see them. And they let us do that.
And do you have a court-appointed attorney?
Yeah.
And how are they?
At first, he didn't seem like he really wanted to do too much. And then he wasn't even at the last court date because I think he was sick. But the attorney that stood in for him said he has a plan for when the trial dates come. He wants the worker there because he caught a few areas in her report where she lied. Because in the police report, their father said that I was not home when the baby got hurt, but the worker's saying that I was home. And I have papers from where I was saying that I wasn't home. And I showed, the worker has a copy of the messages where he told me that the baby needed to be taken to the doctor because he fell. The workers have it and the detective had it.
What is it that we're waiting on? Just nothing, right? Because the classes are done.
Their dad did all the classes, and they want me to get a restraining order against their dad, and I'm going to do that in the morning. But I had already tried, and the judge denied it. And they told me to file again. And I was like, well, the judge denied it. I have this paper saying it was denied. And my attorney told me not to worry about it. But the workers keep telling me to apply again. Named after his dad, other than one additional middle name that he has. So
right.
I had did a long post for him on his birthday, and they turned it around saying it's a post about his dad. I'm like, look, my son has one more name than his dad did. And then he had did a post. I haven't blocked on my social media, but he had did a post saying how much we appreciate our son's godmom, and they turned it around that was in a post of appreciation for me. And the fact that I had posted something, it was some old screenshot I posted, and I was laughing at it, that we were making plans to buy a car, and that therefore me and the father are still together.
Are you guys still together?
Mm-mm. So I want my kids back. So I'm like, no.
But that's stupid because nothing even happened between you guys, correct?
Mm-mm. We've had little arguments here and there, but that's every relationship.
I was going to say, who has
He's never put his hands on me. He's never called me out of my name. Unless we were playing, he's never shoved me into anything. But that's how me and him are. Like, we grew up together. We met when we were 11. So aside from this situation, nothing like this has ever happened, and this caused a lot of arguments and fights between us. And my sister had told him during his visit with our son that, Shawnee and the baby, they don't really have a bond. And he had to correct her, like, you have to realize when she had our daughter, she had postpartum depression. And even though she was on birth control, she got pregnant within the 11 months of our daughter being here. Because I had found out I was pregnant the month before my daughter's first birthday. And I was on birth control. So I'm like, what the hell? And so I did keep the baby. And after So the postpartum depression carried on, and it was worse this time to where I couldn't get out of bed. I wouldn't eat. Wouldn't shower. The only time I'm up is if I had to use the bathroom. And then the baby got taken as I'm slowly starting to come out of the postpartum depression. So he had to realize, he told her, you have to realize that she had bad postpartum depression. So he was with me most of the time. And then once she was starting to come out of the postpartum is when they got taken. So of course he doesn't know her. But I told my sister, I was like, you see how my son jumps out of your arms when he sees me and flies into my arms or takes off running to me. And you're saying me and my son don't have a bond? He comes straight to me. He laughs. He's in my lap the whole time I'm doing stuff with my daughter. And the worker, I was talking to the worker about it. I said, at first, my son acted like he didn't know who I was, and it hurt. But I love that he's all hanging on to me, just smiling and laughing. And she said, that's exactly what we look for to want to reunify. And I said, then what's the problem? I was like, you see, me and my kids have a good bond, but y'all still dragging this out. A few days before the last court date, asking what was different, and she was talking about she's gonna talk to the supervisor and see if she can change her recommendation. And she didn't. She twisted everything I said into something else. And that's why she said I appear to be deceptive. And then I had their father had the relationship status on Facebook, but it said married, but my name wasn't there because I have him blocked. So, and then I had forgot to change my name back on Instagram because I don't use Instagram that much. So she used those as ways to show that we're in a relationship.
The stuff that they do, it's ridiculous and immature.
Yeah, and then my kids being so young, it's hard. Like, I miss my son's first birthday. I might miss my daughter's third birthday. If the judge doesn't say that, they can come home, or at least start the reunification process to where they'll be home for a few hours and then overnight, then I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like, there was times since this happened, I wanted to give up because I'm like, okay, maybe my kids are better off. And then I'm like, no, these are my kids, and they were happy at home. They wanted me to do, and I don't know what else to do.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you've done everything.
I even asked
It sounds like no matter what, it's like you're between a rock and a hard.
Exactly. And then last April, literally, it was not last April, my kids were still home, but my ex, who put his name on my daughter's birth certificate, he had raped one of my friends after he drugged her. They were thinking about giving my daughter to him. And I had brought it up. I showed them the messages. They were like, well, it wasn't against her, so he could still fight for her. I'm like, but y'all took his kids from 2016, and he still don't even have his kids back. And for him touching his daughter, and he's told my daughter, ooh, you look just like your mama, give me a kiss. Y'all want to give her to him? My daughter will not be safe. And before the judge said anything, they sent adoptions people to my sister's house to see if she's willing to adopt them. And she told them that she'd rather do guardianship so that way I could still fight for them. And they said, well, if you're not willing to adopt them, we'll find somebody who is.
That's what they told your sister?
Yep. I'll ask if my kids need something, and they'll know she has it. But my son was still in his newborn carrier up until a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I get a car seat, and she was like, I don't know how much he weighs. And she finally got it. I said, I can give him a car seat. It's not a problem. She said, no, I'll do it. I get money to do these things. But I'm like, okay. And I'm not used to seeing my kids in clothes that are faded or anything. And they wear stuff that's donated from a church. When I've sent them, I had bought and sent them multiple outfits. I even take them outfits. Now, other than my son, I haven't seen I seen him in a couple things that I sent him, but other than that, I don't really see them in stuff that I sent to them. And she brought my son to the visit without shoes a few times. I'm like, he can walk now. And she said, well, we don't really go anywhere other than here. And I said, but still, he needs shoes. When my sister's husband had brought my kids to a visit, my daughter had on shoes that were too small for her.
That's got to be hard. How old was your son when he was taken?
6 months. And my daughter just turned 2 months before.
And now he's walking.
Yeah, they're not even teaching him how to talk. He knows sign language, but he don't know how to talk. And I was like, I don't really care about him learning the sign language because I'm losing my hearing. So it's good that he'll still have a way to communicate with me, but he needs to learn how to talk too.
You and your husband have to separate as far as your living situation?
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
What did you say?
What would you tell parents that are going through this?
Don't trust anything the workers say.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they switched literally everything up that I was told. They'll tell me one thing and there was a time when this first happened that as me and their father, because at first they were letting me and the father visit together, so he was seeing both of the kids. Me and him were leaving as they were taking my daughter into a visit with my ex. They let my son in the visit. And I heard my daughter screaming and crying as I'm talking to the worker. I said, my baby's back there screaming. And because my daughter, she don't like my babies. But she was screaming at the top of her lungs like she was being hurt. And I had told them. And the worker said, okay, I'll go see what's going on. They came back. She's fine. She's just playing. I said, no. I know how my daughter cries. I know how she screams. There's something wrong with my baby. And they're like, no, they're just in there playing, and they made me leave.
When's your next court date?
The 23rd of this month, and then the 13th of October.
I don't know if you are aware that I do a radio show on Saturday nights. But you can call and ask questions for the attorney that's does the show with me.
Mm-hmm. Is the attorney the Vincent Davis? I know. But because I get the text messages for the radio show because I was originally gonna hire him as my attorney, but I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
He had helped my ex's sister get her kids back. So she's the one who gave me his number.
He's awesome.
Every time he does one of the little radio shows, I get a text message to my phone back. It's always when I'm busy that it pops up.
Well, call in on Saturday. I'll be there, and you can ask, what he thinks you should do.
Okay. Yes. Anything that I can figure out before my next court date that I can do, I want to get on top of it.
Yeah. Try and see. Let's see what he says.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I will.
Well, I thank you for coming on here and sharing your story with us.
Welcome.
I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.